I'm here and talk as much as I did to introduce because I don't have as much to say. Just please be aware we'll be streaming the speakers, so that's definitely something that will happen with our next guest. His career has spanned decades and, of course, even continents. So if you don't know much about Bill Thompson, I'm surprised because he's been at the past few forums and is known as a soil health expert. But he's not only that, he's a grazier, like you. Please welcome Bill Thompson to the stage, direct from the foothills of the scenic rim, where he spent 40 years with his lovely wife on a grazing property. Give him a big round of applause and make him feel welcome.
We'll get this working in a minute. Thoroughly endorsed, and that comment is that there's no quick answers and there's no quick to the base graziers almost on a daily basis. So if you take away from what I say a feeling that there's a quick fix or a quick solution to a problem you may have, then I have miscommunicated to you, I'm sorry. Part of the questions that I sort of posed to myself when I was asked to give this talk was what actually is grazing land management, what defines a healthy soil. Now, I'll try and do that by way of a number of slides and also by a number of generic descriptions. And basically it's a jigsaw. Both those matters are jigsaws of pragmatic, sensible, common sense things that a lot of graziers do almost on a daily basis, that their fathers and mothers did on a daily basis, and then in some cases even their grandparents did on a daily basis. They may not have used the term grazing land management, they certainly wouldn't have used the term healthy soils. But the basic fundamental principles behind all that have been used for generations by graziers almost in every continent where I've dealt with graziers remain the same today. But I'll just give you two anecdotes, and I'll give you these two anecdotes because they relate to my own family. My own son, who actually works in CSIRO as an IT programmer and engineer, said to me about 3 weeks ago, after having been bombarded by the various gardening programs on the ABC, etc., with that term soil health, he said, "Dad, my soil is unhealthy. I'm look at the state of my soil." My other relative is my brother-in-law, who's been concerned about declining productivity in his grazing herd. So he went to the regional bull sale and paid $15,000 for a very good class Droughtmaster bull. In my son's case, the problem with his soil that made it unhealthy wasn't the soil, it was him. And it's the price you get if you're over-fertilised and overwater an otherwise good soil and a good lawn. In the case of my brother-in-law, he put that very good bull out into a very low fertility paddock, and that softer, more expensive bull has produced less calves on the ground than what the previous old bull did. So there is no quick fix to the problems that you see in your paddocks. I guess that's the point I make. In both of those, both of my relatives' cases, and they still do talk to me occasionally, they now are having a more lateral view of the problems that they face. So beware the expert who stands up in front of you and says there's a quick fix. There is no such thing. I should be able to press a button. Okay. Grazing management, what are the key components? Well, the first thing, you need to have a knowledge of your type of country, the current state and condition of that country. And many of you, if not all of you, will be aware of the pasture land condition status ratings, classes A, B, C and D. D is the opposite of A being the Garden of Eden, and D being totally degraded land, with significant difficulties in bringing it back into production. You need to have an understanding of where your current pastures fit on that scale. You don't need to know whether it's A, B, C or D, but you need to know relatively whether it's a good quality pasture, whether it's sustainable, whether you keep having to do things to it to maintain it. And the other thing I find increasingly so, unfortunately, and maybe that's a reflection of a lot of the quick fix type approaches that have been promulgated in the last 20 years. And that is that you need to have a sensible and realistic understanding of what the state and the condition is and what you can possibly bring that back to. Not all businesses involved in grazing can afford to bring back to and sustain heavily degraded land. And you may not be able to bring back all of your degraded lands, but you may be able to identify places where both you and the environment and your cattle and your accountant will get the best kick for the dollars you have to invest. This is supposed to be another one to come up. The other thing with grazing management, I think, that is often overlooked. I know in the Whitsunday area that there's been a hell of a lot of investment by landholders in infrastructure needed to bring about and most efficiently manage their property. In other regions, that's certainly not the case. For those of you who travel throughout the grazing industry in northern Australia, there's this term called cattle hunting, which is the most extensive end of the grazing industry to the more intensive end of the grazing industry, which is more typical of what you see in these areas. But infrastructure, you need to invest carefully in your infrastructure, so A, it's cost effective, and B, and in the talk I gave last year, I spent some time talking about an understanding of the role of your herd production model and its flexibility. Again, there are bullock fatteners and there are breeders and there are people that do both, and we've also just heard reference to the fact that there are other animal species that are being incorporated into grazing systems. Your herd production model is the thing at the end of the day that generates the dollars that your accountant wants to see. Your herd production model may be something that the type of grazing system you have, the type of animals you have, may be something that you personally are attached to. In many cases, you need to take a stand back from that and see, well, what is the best model to operate so that I have maximum flexibility. So I can lessen my stocking rate at appropriate times because I'm running these types of animals, or I'm grass fattening as opposed to breeding, etc. These are the sort of questions that you need to look at. The key point to this is that if you're wanting to maintain your soils in a healthy state, each and every one of those three areas to do with grazing land management, and I'll come back to this later, play an important role. We haven't even talked about whether your soil is dark, red, brown or brindle. We haven't even talked yet about whether your soil is fertile or white. Grazing land management is part of the jigsaw that affects whether you have a healthy soil or maintain a healthy soil or not. And I'll just reiterate this for probably the 10th last time. Beware of people coming to you selling you quick fixes, including me. I might have to get some help to change this if someone knows how to work this, but okay, so they're the sort of overarching issues to do with grazing management from my point of perspective anyway. Healthy soils, what are the key questions? Well, first question is, what are they? And I would be misinforming you if I told you that I knew precisely what a healthy soil is. Next question is, even if I know what the range of characteristics are that may define a healthy soil, is there more than one type of healthy soil? Now, I do know the answer to that. And that is, if there's 100 soils in your district, there's probably 100 variants of what is a healthy soil. Related to that question is, does the soil have to be a dress circle soil to be healthy? Now, those of you with a background in the cane industry here will probably be aware of the fact that the Mackay cane region has what is colloquially referred to as the dress circle, where you don't even have to dry pasture cane crop to get a good yield. Now that's a particular patch of land on the banks, on the edges of the Pioneer River. Every district has its dress circle soil. Burdekin has it. Proserpine has very little bit of it. Bundaberg has a fair bit of it. In the grain growing areas of central Queensland, they all have what is the locals refer to as the dress circle soil. Dress circle soil, if properly managed, is a healthy soil. But a healthy soil doesn't always have to be part of that dress circle quality land. In fact, dress circle quality soils normally comprise about 0.01% of the soils that are actively used in an area. So if you think your luck is out because you don't have a dress circle soil on your property, no, that just means you're in the same boat as everybody else in the industry. I'll just slide over into the area of science, for want of a better word. Now, my background is in science, and I could bore you with technology and all that sort of stuff, but in doing that, I'd bore myself. But this here is as close as I'm prepared to go on the physical properties of an idealised, healthy soil. And these are common sense. A healthy soil is one that allows water to enter the soil, and for some of that water to be stored over the major part of the soil profile, and where excess water drains out of the root zone and allows excess rainfall to run off and to not cause excessive erosion when it runs off. Very, very commonsensical object. More commonly, but people refer to a healthy soil in terms of its chemical properties. Sometimes it's biochemical properties. It needs to have a pH in the upper soil profile of between 5 and 8.5, preferably between 6 and 7.5. It needs to have moderate or lower salinity. For cropping purposes, you prefer low salinity. Many pastures are tolerant of salinity. So from a pasture point of view, a healthy chemical soil probably needs to have no more than moderate levels of salinity. It needs to have the ability to retain key nutrients, etc. The two key features of a soil that relate to that is organic matter and clay content. The overemphasis on organic matter tends to overshadow the importance of the clay content of your soil and the type of clay. I'll come back to that and show you on some slides. Okay. Okay, the question here is that clear enough, or do we need to dim some lights? These slides are pretty, you have a good view of them. Is that clear at the back of the room?
Right, mate.
Okay, let me know if it's not clear, and we'll try and sort it. question that arises from this is this a healthy soil? If you look at that slide, you'll see a lot of things that are not very impressive, apart from the quality of the photograph itself. It doesn't have a rich organic looking colour to it over the depth of it. It has very grey material at the bottom. This shot is actually taken from the coal seam gas fields where a particular CSG company is laying pipelines to 3 metres depth. That's why it's excavated in the way it is. The darker stuff up in the top left-hand corner is where the stockpile's been scraped off and stored. So originally that laid over the top of everything, about 50 centimetres off. The bottom of it is actually, despite its horrible looking character, it has no salinity, it's full of calcium, doesn't have any sodium in it, and the salt levels are pretty good. This is one of the most fertile, highly productive buffer grass soils in Wandong. You don't need to fertilise it to fatten bullocks. No, you can't fatten bullocks in this country if you don't fertilise in one form or another. I don't think there are properties out there that have never had a truck of fertiliser drive in their front door. It is, by any definition, that is a healthy soil, or it was until the CSG company got stuck into it. Okay, this one is the colour, on the screen it's looking yellowy in colour, but this is dark red colour soil. Is it a healthy soil? Well, if you can make it out, the surface soil has actually been eroded away. That's the top 10, 15 centimetres of better quality loamy material. And the red subsoil clay has been exposed. Now I could take you, this soil is actually very common in the Burdekin. It's common around here. There are similar soils to this in the Thailand area. Basically those red sandier soils with good red clay subsoils. This is the sort of group of soils that this belongs in. It's actually suited for intensive improved pastures, irrigated horticulture and cane. Not only is it suited for it, but it is widely used for it. Before erosion, it met all of the definitions of a healthy soil. You cannot grow any of those crops without adding fertiliser to it. So fertility per se, whereas fertility in the Wandong soil was important, this soil it is so low in fertility that even when in grazing systems they have to phosphorus supplement cattle. Its ability to support the plants that grow on it, so long as you don't erode it in the way that this one's been eroded, is exceptional. Again, this one may also be a bit hard to see. This soil again is one which is not too dissimilar to what you have here. It has an intact surface soil layer. And that's that layer in there. Excuse me. There's a lot of organic matter debris on the top. The imagery is not that good, but there's a lot of root penetration deep into a gravelly, stony clay subsoil. It is a healthy soil, but because of low fertility, it has low productivity, very similar to the previous image. The question is what happens to this soil? This is a very common soil. Some of the soils we're going to have a look at in the field day tomorrow are not too dissimilar to this soil. What happens when you erode it? Well, you get that, and you don't need me to explain to you what that will do in terms of pasture reduction. So it's possible to turn a healthy soil into a very unhealthy soil simply by the intervention of man and his management techniques. And this last soil is one you probably are all too familiar with, or some of you would be. It's a typical proserpine lowlands tea tree soil, I call them. It's not a good shot. I took this one yesterday actually from an excavation pit that Telstra had dug. It looks horrible. In fact, if you're in the wet season and you're trying to ride a horse over some of these soils, or drive a tractor through them, or drive a four-wheel drive through them, they feel horrible too. Typical spewy lowland soil. Is it healthy or not? Well, if you just go back, please. The immediate gut reaction, particularly those who are trying to pattern cattle on this, is that this is not a healthy soil. It's low fertility, has a fair bit of salinity lower down in it, but it has other features. It has an intact surface layer here with good organic matter content. That layer there, which is about 2 to 4 inches thick, is rich in organic matter. It's clay subsoil, although you can't see it in this photo. It has got a lot of root penetration in it. It just happens to come from bad parents. It's formed in materials that are very infertile. But healthy in terms of it has a structure there to allow all the soil processes that you would like to see in a healthy soil. Yes, it is. Is it easy to turn it into an unhealthy soil, or a damaged soil, or degraded soil? You only need to drive up the Bruce Highway to see examples of that. In summary, if you're looking at a soil, and trying to determine whether it's likely to be healthy or not, there should be no exposed subsoil, and the surface soil should be intact. That's common sense. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that. That's a reasonable. The surface of the soil should have at least 30%. Should have less than 30% exposed bare soil. There's a couple of reasons for this. That magic figure of 70% of vegetation cover doesn't have to be, vegetation cover that's 2 foot high. It only needs to be 2, 3, 4 inches high at most. Is what protects the soil from the effects of raindrop impact, sheet erosion, etc. And as you've seen from the previous slides, you can start out with a healthy soil where everything is working as best as it can in that soil. You can turn that into a very unhealthy soil by erosion. What does that mean in terms of grazing? Don't flog your country. So all you see is you'll pay the price for the first storm that comes through. The top few centimetres of the soil should be a dark colour and neither hard nor cloddy. Any of you who have a backyard garden will know the significance of that. It's to do with organic matter, nutrient retention, water holding capacity, etc. And unless in a waterlogged area, there should be no mottling, which is variation in the colour of the topsoil. Some of your major grazing lands here, you cannot get away from the fact that naturally your soils do get waterlogged for some time of the year. As I said earlier, the soil pH should be in that reasonable range. I want to now just briefly turn to some of the grazing strategies and their potential impacts on whether you define a soil as being in a healthy state. Bear in mind that when the soil, in its original state before you started grazing it, it may not be in a highly productive soil anyway, but it still doesn't mean to say it's not a healthy soil. A healthy soil basically is also a robust soil which is able to weather the impacts of some of the management strategies you'll put on it. I'm going to go through some management strategies here, and I apologise to anybody who is an advocate of one or more of these strategies if it appears as if I'm being critical. And that's why I always start with cell grazing. Cell grazing is really intense rotational grazing of paddocks that aim to maximise the amount of vegetation consumed by cattle. When you boil it all down, that's the aim of it. The aim of cell grazing is to take away from the grazing animal the ability to selectively select plants in the pasture sward. The idea being that in any given pasture situation, there is a large amount of vegetation biomass that the animal does not consume because it is stocked at such a density that they can select around it. What you then do, of course, is you add some supplementation to the process. So even though they're gobbling up basically roughage as well as good quality pasture, they're getting enough nutrients. It's a brilliant idea. If there's more than one land type with different soils included in a grazing cell, unhealthy soil conditions may result if one soil is less robust than another. Now, the cell grazing approach requires periods of spelling. So if one soil only needs to be spelled for, say, 2 months, and the other soil really needs to be spelled for 3 months, and what you have is a process over a period of time where the lower quality soil becomes definitely unhealthy and becomes degraded. And again, the soil, soil health will be at risk if minimum amounts of pasture cover are not maintained. Where I've seen cell grazing work best is actually in some of the types of circumstances that are around here, where you have quite fertile landscapes, highly productive pastures that go rank very quickly if you do not get cattle onto it, fairly uniform soils. Where I've seen it perform badly is in environments where those conditions can't be met. Paddock spelling, also called rotational grazing. This is what your grandparents used to do. Paddocks are spelled for key periods, normally around pasture flowering and seed set stage and after burning. Excuse me. These are and they're also important to build up soil seed stores. Now that's probably more important in your lower quality grazing lands than it is in your digitaria type pasture system. But in the main, soil health will improve as more organic matter is returned to the soil. Bear in mind, under the cell grazing principle, there's a real chance that your soil organic matter levels will degrade significantly over time. Under rotational grazing principles, the soil organic matter levels will either be maintained, and in many cases will increase. Supplementation, I've already briefly mentioned that. Is the matching of supplements to herd nutrition needs. It's highly recommended when with the soil in a natural state is low in fertility. The only negative impact I see from strategic supplementation is around those stock concentration points. If you don't move your feed points around the paddock over time, you'll get a patchwork pool of overgrazed and degraded / unhealthy soil. Fire, and I promise I should put my flak jacket on every time I put fire up on one of these talks. Fire is an integral part of most grazing systems, less so in areas such as your own, critically important in the drier parts of our grazing system. When it's properly used, it can be used to inhibit rankness and improve tropical pastures and assist in mobilising nutrients such as P, K and S, less so nitrogen. In less productive pastures, excessive use of fire may reduce soil organic matter levels and also increase erosion hazards if used too frequently. I'm an advocate of the sensible use of fire. It is one of the key processes in mobilising some of the nutrients in the landscape. But unfortunately, in large parts of our grazing industry in Queensland, fire has been used too frequently, primarily to control woody weed regrowth, and you've had a significant impact on your pasture biodiversity as a result. In your areas here, the wetter pasture recatchments, you're probably struggling to get a fire run through a lot of your country. Up in the Proserpine area, Bloomsbury area, and Bowen area, and the opposite is the case. Pasture topping has come into favour, particularly on smaller properties. It's basically the slashing of excess growth to encourage new growth from the crown. Excess rankness really often has very low nutritional value to livestock. It can be practiced with burning of the slash material in a more controlled and managed way of burning. It is the most practical strategy. It's not cheap, but it is the most practical strategy for those tussock-type grasses in improved pastures, and it's preferred to intensive grazing once pastures become rank. Once your pastures become over-ranked, I question whether you can put sometimes practice with deep ripping, and I know a couple of producers around here who do that, some strategic deep ripping to improve aeration and biological activity in the immediate topsoil. That's a strategy that I would suggest is worth investigating. There are implications to doing that, but, and it will produce higher soil organic matter, but may also tie up some soil nutrients. That's a not well understood process, that the more organic matter you leave lying in the upper parts of your profile, you'll see things like a bit more nitrogen deficiency, etc., etc. It's not a reason to not do it, I would add. I would thoroughly encourage in your rank tropical pastures the use of pasture topping. Okay, good herd and land management means, I'll give you some examples here, that almost every grazier in this room, he'll know the breeding of his bulls and breeders and the features that make them good, bad or useless, or in my case sometimes dangerous, and the best way to manage and keep them in their most productive condition. Most, 99% of graziers will know that. They've either got it from workshops like this, they've got it from their neighbours, or they've got it from their fathers and grandmothers. Some of the graziers will also know the main pasture types, if not by name, but by the way they grow, when they are best to graze, etc. When they're at their best production stage, and the signs of rankness and poor nutrition, and how to intervene to stop these pastures going rank. Majority of graziers will know that. A lesser number, in my experience, sadly a lesser number, will know the pH of the soils, the thickness of the topsoil, the fertility of the topsoil, the structure of the topsoil, and whether the soils are well drained or not. There is a recent trend of placing some emphasis on this. It's people growing crops are often very well informed about these things because there's been a lot of advisory work put into that. But that's basically where you need to go to get that jigsaw that I mentioned at the very start. I think that's it. Thank you.